Inchai Comic Guy here with another Comicsgate unboxing, and this time we're actually taking a flash to the past with CyberFrog Unfrogettable Tales Volume 1. This is a comic book I first reviewed way back when I first started my channel on YouTube. However, back then, I wasn't very good at doing reviews. I hadn't settled on a format yet, the audio was 100% garbage, and I had not yet implemented a scorecard method for the comic books I was reviewing. Since then, I've had several people ask me if I would actually go back and re-review CyberFrog with some decent audio, and to tell them what kind of scores I would actually give the book. And since I don't have another Comicsgate book to review at the moment, and I feel like exploiting Ethan Van Sciver for likes and clicks, we're going to go ahead and do just that today. The very first thing we're going to talk about is, of course, the packaging, because CyberFrog Unforgettable Tales came in a Gemini mailer, which is exactly what every Comicsgater should expect of a comic book coming to them. Now, this was just a standard Gemini mailer. Oh, sure, it had some branding on it with the Laughing Man logo for All Caps Comics, but other than that, there wasn't anything collectible about the box itself, which is why the box ended up in the trash bin. I can, however, say that despite a little exterior damage to the packaging itself, all the contents in the box were in perfect condition. And for that, I'm going to be giving the packaging of CyberFrog Unforgettable Tales a 3 out of 5 stars. The next thing we're going to be discussing, of course, will be the cover art for CyberFrog Unforgettable Tales, drawn by Ethan Van Sciver with colors by Kyle Ritter. Oh, and in case you were wondering, no, we are not going to be assigning Ethan's cover extra points because it came as chromium. Now, don't get me wrong, the chromium is absolutely beautiful, but it's the actual artwork on the page that is of primary concern to me. And I've got to tell you, CyberFrog Unforgettable Tales has probably one of the best covers of any comic book I have ever read in my whole life. It's not very often that an artist has an opportunity to visually communicate every single thing that you need to know about a character on one page. I mean, look at this. Look at this image of CyberFrog. The rain pouring down, water dripping down his metal and amphibian skin, the little frog on his back. The physicality of his pose indicates somebody waiting, but also somebody marred by depression. His physical demeanor complemented by the dour expression on his face. Everything that you need to know about CyberFrog as a character, about the emotions and turmoil that this character goes through, that he's feeling, is represented right here on this page. Ethan Van Sciver effectively captures the entire emotional ethos of this character in one single panel. Even if I had never opened and read another CyberFrog book, if I had never even heard of Ethan Van Sciver, everything I need to know about the emotions of this character is represented on this page based on the environment that we find him, the weather that has been used to complement the mood of the character, the physical pose, the look on his face. Everything screams who this character actually is. And I cannot think of one other artist on one other book that has so effectively communicated so much emotion in one single page. And for that, I am giving Ethan Van Sciver 5 out of 5 stars. His illustration is beautiful, and it gives you a perfect sense of the emotion, attitude, and thought processes of the character. And Kyle Ritter's coloring complements every facet of Ethan Van Sciver's artwork. This is, without a doubt, the very best cover of any comic book I have ever read. I cannot think of a single comic book I have ever seen in my whole life that comes even close to being as good as the cover for CyberFrog Unforgettable Tales. Now, before we get started talking about the interior artwork, there's a couple of things I want to remind the audience, and that is, this is a book that Ethan Van Sciver wrote and drew when he was 19 years old. Only a year out of high school, and he is already producing comic books on a professional level. And we're going to dive into that right now. It's very clear to me that at this point in Ethan Sciver's burgeoning career, that he had not yet developed his own style. This, of course, is something that would come with time, and at this moment, he's actually emulating the style of his heroes, and it's clear that he's a huge Todd McFarlane fan. Again, even if I had never ever seen a single video with Ethan Sciver, I can tell that he is a Todd McFarlane fan just by looking at his artwork. And oh my goodness, this artwork is amazing. I am genuinely surprised that Marvel did not club him over the head, drag him to their studios, tie him to a desk, and make him draw Spider-Man for the rest of his life. Every single page of Ethan Van Sciver's penciling is amazing. And he didn't just do the penciling, of course, he did the inking on his own work as well, something that he still does to this day and prefers actually. You look at the details, the landscape, the city, the environment, the character, everything about this is absolutely beautiful. And the funny thing is, this wasn't even done on 17 by 11 inch Bristol board. He was actually doing this on normal paper, and he was actually drawing it the size of the actual comic book page, which of course is not what you do in the industry. In the industry, you draw it big, you shrink it down. Look how amazing this artwork was back in the 1990s when Ethan Van Sciver was still breaking into the industry. The expression on characters' faces, the poses, the backgrounds, the environment, every single aspect of this comic book is beautiful. And now, decades later, with the help of Kyle Ritter, every single page and panel is elevated to the nth degree by fantastic colors done by an expert that frankly is unparalleled in this industry. Kyle Ritter is, in my opinion, the very best colorist in the entire comic book industry today. And this is proven by what he does on every single page to elevate Ethan Van Sciver's artwork from the 1990s. And to bolster this work even further, we have the amazing lettering by Eric Weathers. And Eric Weathers puts in his very, very best lettering in CyberFrog Unfrogettable Tales. I don't think I've seen Eric Weathers do a better job in lettering than he has in this book. While Eric Weathers always will give you a 3 out of 5 star on any book that he works on, here he shows us exactly what he is capable of as an artist himself. And with all of that being said, let's go ahead and start assigning some scores. First thing we're going to discuss, of course, is the interior artwork. Ethan Van Sciver, again at age 19, demonstrates why he is one of the greatest artists in the entire comic book industry, scoring a 4 out of 5 stars at an age when most of his peers couldn't even hold down a job at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Kyle Ritter's coloring is in top form, taking illustrations that, again, are undersized for the type of book being produced and improves on every single page, winning again 4 out of 5 stars. Why a 4 and not 5 stars? Simple. There's a big difference between the fantastic coloring you get in a comic book and the fantastic coloring you get in a painting by Alex Ross. You want to know what coloring gets you a 5? Alex Ross gives you a 5, or at least something on that level. For a conventional comic book, however, this is top form, and again, 4 out of 5 stars. And this brings us to Eric Weathers' lettering, where he has brought his A game for the first time in any comic book that I've actually read. Like I said, Eric Weathers will always give you a 3 out of 5, no matter what. He's just that good. But here he is off the chain, and he gives us a 5 out of 5 stars in the lettering department. Every page is beautiful, and he goes above and beyond in the design of the dialogue balloons and the expression and energy that he gives every single page. And when you consider that he actually had to go through the arduous task of actually erasing all of Ethan Van Sciver's original lettering, because, again, back in the 90s, Ethan was doing everything. and to replace it with conventional lettering that is so fantastic, he is definitely deserving of that extra point just for all of the hard work that he actually put into this comic book. Finally, this brings us to the writing, and I must say the writing in this comic book did surprise me. Even though he was only 19 years old, Ethan Van Sciver demonstrated a strong grasp of narrative and story structure as he presented this comic book to a new audience. It is always a very good idea to start big and push into the details. And that's exactly what Ethan Van Sciver does here, as he goes ahead and tells us what's going on through the narration balloons to the thoughts and viewpoints of CyberFrog himself. We know that we're in Manhattan. We know what type of environment we're dealing with as far as criminality and gangs. We know just what type of scum CyberFrog is up against. And by the second page, we see exactly how CyberFrog is going to deal with that scum, Punisher style. And by page 3 of this comic book, not only do we have a good grasp on who CyberFrog is, what CyberFrog is, but we know his name as well, and how he views himself in relation to the story that he is participating in. It even goes as far as having him talking to the audience, the character basically being an early version of Deadpool, quite aware that he is a character inside of a comic book, and that he's here to entertain you. But you also get a sense of how alone CyberFrog is as a character. He really is an alien on an alien world, on a mission but disconnected from the people that he's actually working to protect and save. And no sooner are we introduced to our hero, are we also introduced to our villain. Benjamin Riley, a character clearly inspired by the Violator from Spawn, makes his appearance as Deathfly. And pitting a fly against a frog as far as your hero and villain, this was a very good idea. Not only does it clearly play into the tropes that we would expect from the type of story being played out, it also serves to reassure us that CyberFrog, while this may be a challenging fight, is well within his element. And as CyberFrog is dealing with punks and thugs, as we are waiting for the inevitable clash between hero and villain, we get a sense that there are other factors in play, namely the New York Police Department, as the authorities begin investigating our hero as a vigilante villain himself, culminating in a conclusion that leaves us with a question mark about what will happen next time we pick up a copy of CyberFrog. For a story from the 1990s written by some punk 19-year-old kid, I've got to say, Ethan Van Sciver, even back then, showed that he had the chops to be a good writer and make a quality product. And while there are some structural issues, while it is a little bit thin on story, and there's a lot of talking at the audience, there's also an equal amount of showing the audience what's going on and expertly playing on the emotions of the audience visually throughout the entire book. For a young writer just learning his craft, this is an absolutely stellar first comic, which is why I'm going to give Ethan Van Sciver's writing in CyberFrog Unfrogettable Tales #1 3 out of 5 stars. All the foundational elements for Ethan Van Sciver to become a great writer are demonstrated in this book, which is why when you go look at his latest comic books, when you go read Blood Honey, you can see how he has evolved as a writer and why he was one of the best artists/writers that you had at DC Comics for the last 15 years of his career at that institution. And with all of that being said, CyberFrog Unforgettable Tales gets a final score of 4 out of 5 stars. Is it any wonder that Ethan Van Sciver's peers at DC Comics hated his guts? Even as a punk teenage kid, he was better than they were. Ethan Van Sciver at age 19 demonstrates a skill and ability that led him to become one of the greats at DC Comics. You can put aside politics. The reason Ethan Van Sciver's peers hated him so much had nothing to do with how he voted. What it was really about was the little green-eyed monster of jealousy. And with that being said, I'd like to thank every single one of you for taking a moment to come watch this video. Before you run off, I'd appreciate it if you hit the thumb button and like the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and follow me on social media. This is your friend Inch High Comic Guy wishing you all have a wonderful day.